Just 2 years ago, San Francisco voters recalled 3 school board members for failing to meet their obligations. The voters are demanding increased accountability at this time. The district now faces a double-edged sword. As enrollment declines, the district receives less funding from the state, which causes a reduction in teaching resources, which then contributes to continual decline in enrollment. So the question is, what is the appropriate strategy to resolve this crisis, and how should voters respond in the upcoming election of new school board members? My name is Jim Connor. Welcome to Game Changers Silicon Valley. My guest is Ann Hsu, who is a candidate for the San Francisco School Board and is running with a focus on financial reform. Ann, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Jim.
You have a deep experience in business as an entrepreneur. Can you give us a little oversight about your perspective?
Well, let me introduce my personal background first and then my business background and how both of them are relevant to why I'm running for the school board again. So first, I'm an immigrant to this country at the age of 11 from China, where my father was sent to a re-education camp during the Cultural Revolution. And as a result of all of that fallout, I and my brother were not allowed to go to college because we're from the wrong family background. And because of that, my family left China so that my brother and I can have an education. So education is foremost important to my family and me. And I came to the U.S. at age 11 and went on to public school all the way from middle school, high school, college, graduate school. Again, graduate school. I have 2 master's degrees, one in electrical engineering and one in MBA, all in public school. So I received an excellent, excellent public education in the United States, and I'm very grateful. And I went on for 25-year career in high-tech and consumer products. In those years, I founded and ran 3 companies for over 18 years. So I have financial and management and entrepreneurial experience, all in the private sector. And in the private sector, actually, much of it here in Silicon Valley. This is the Game Changer of Silicon Valley show. So I'm very honored to be here. And my professional experience and personal experience in public education is why I believe in so much public education. So that's why I'm running for.
So as I understand it then, you're taking this entrepreneurial startup, serve your customers first with a product they want. You're taking that perspective and bringing this to the issues and problems in the San Francisco school system, school district, I should say. Is that correct?
That's right. That's right. Because I believe that every service and every organization should have customers, products, and a customer service mentality. In the private sector, if you don't focus on that, you go out of business. And what I found when I actually served on the school board 2 years ago, after the recall you mentioned, I was appointed by the San Francisco mayor as one of the 3 replacements of those recall school board members. And when I got on the school board, I saw that there was no product and customer service mentality and the financial management of the school district. That was so much lacking as compared to any company that I've worked with throughout my career in the private sector. So I think that is what's missing, and that is what I can bring to the school board.
You've got me very interested in your experience because I've observed many startups here, and one of the defining factors of a startup is to eliminate problems, and many of those problems can be at the operational level. It could be anything. You must have seen that right away, and my question is, how did you address that? Did you get the other school board members to agree, or did they disagree, or was there, hey, yeah, Ann, let's go and do this, or, oh, no, you can't do that, you can't touch that subject?
In terms of working with my board members, I was appointed along with 2 other mothers, 3 mothers who had children in the school district who were professionals. So we all brought our professional experience to the board, and we worked very well together to immediately reverse some of the terrible decisions made by the school board members who were recalled. For example, we restored the merit-based admissions to Lowell right away. We made the district dropped the effort to paint over the George Washington murals, which saved our district probably $500,000. And I immediately helped the effort to save JROTC by talking to 4-star, 5-star generals and getting money from the U.S. Army to fully fund JROTC for 2 years. So we did that very quickly within 2 months of being on the board. And then I looked at the rest of the operations of the school district and found that it was very terribly managed and very sad to see.
Now, is this, when you say terribly managed, you have a superintendent, which is more or less like the CEO of a company. Was that the point of focus, that this superintendent is not doing the job right, and were you able to get that person to change, or did they leave, and what happened in that scenario?
We were appointed in March of 2022, and the superintendent at the time was to retire at the end of June. So he was basically checked out. He had 3 months to go, not doing much of anything. And the first thing that we did as a new board was to interview and hire a new superintendent who started July 1st of 2022. So the current superintendent I helped hire. Okay? And I think the problem is more the culture of the whole district. That one of the main things that I believe will fix our financial crisis problem is to set defined metrics for every program that we spend money on, metrics of success. That was one of the questions I asked in my first board meeting to whoever was presenting to us. I said, can you tell me the metrics by which you measure the success of the program you just told me about? And the answer to me, first of all, there was a pause, like nobody had asked that before. And then the answer was, we're working with Stanford to put together those metrics. I'm a Berkeley person, so that was the wrong thing to tell me. But anyway, I said, this program was started in 2014. It is now 2022. Does that mean that for the past 8 years, you have not had metrics of success or failure for the program that you have been running? Silence. And that applied to every program that I asked about. So we have been spending lots of money without getting results because we never defined what the results should be. That's where all the money went, with no result.
So now this has been going on for at least since 2014. Decades.
Not just 2014.
And, I've read an article about the projected budget this year is $148 million deficit this year.
I do know that our budget was $1.3 billion this year. We had to cut $10 million or so to balance that for 24-25, and we did it by just not hiring the teachers that we can't hire anyway. So those empty positions, just moved them away and took some of the earmarked funding from something else and moved it to the not earmarked bucket just to cover for 24-25. But for 25-26, we need to do school closing. We need to cut some programs, lay off people to balance that.
I read again about these two analysts have been appointed by the state of California to observe, and now in May, their role or their authority was upgraded to include veto power over any expenditure that, shall we say, doesn't meet the state's guidelines to rebalance things and get the fiscal house in order. How's that gone? Have you observed what they've done?
They were there when I was there 2 years ago.
Okay.
But they were called fiscal experts. So they were there, sent by the state to just kind of watch over things, make recommendations. The state has noticed that SFUSD has not been managing our budget well. So they sent these two. They were experts looking and helping us. Well, 2 years later, now they have upgraded these two to advisors who have veto power. 2 years ago, they didn't have veto power. Okay, now they do.
What do you think is going to happen? Are they going to be able to rectify this? These two advisors giving the school board advice of don't do this or we're going to veto that. Is this going to be enough to turn it around, or will the closures reduce the expenditures to turn things around? What's your prognosis on this?
My prognosis of SFUSD, including the Board of Education, which is the ultimate one responsible for hiring the superintendent for the whole district, is that for the past many, many decades, the board has been focused on politics and not on education, not on running a school district that serves students. So they have been kicking this can down the road for decades. A lot of mismanagement, wasteful spending, okay, that has led us to today when we have to close schools in order to balance the budget. And the board depends on who gets elected onto the board this November will decide whether we're going to actually stop kicking the can down the road, to make some hard decisions, to close some schools. No school board member wants to close schools because then you will, I don't know, hurt the people. Not to mention hurting the students and families, but the people who help get you elected, Then it's not good for your next election. And many people use the school board as the stepping stone to launch their political careers.
We touched base on that briefly just in our chat here before we started, and I wasn't quite aware of how many people use the school board as a stepping stone. Maybe you can disclose that to our...
I'll tell you, I don't know how many, but I can think of at least three. Just off the bat. 3 who started on the school board, and one in particular didn't even finish his school board term before he ran for the supervisor, city supervisor, and didn't finish his supervisor term and ran for assembly, state assembly. So the normal path is school board, city supervisor, state assembly, state senator, and then U.S. congressman, U.S. senator, and on they go. A young man who is now at the assembly stage.
Is now at the assembly seeking election.
He did not have any children when he was a very young man, got elected to the school board, did not finish his term, went on to supervisor.
Yeah. You as an immigrant, you have a unique perspective of the gift of public education. Right? It's free. It should be great. It's open to everybody. And yet it has been mismanaged terribly in San Francisco as well as other major cities. Is it simply that we have the wrong school board directing it, or is it the will to get it right?
So outside of San Francisco, when I went to public schools in Erie, Pennsylvania, almost everybody went to public schools. Maybe 10% went to private schools, and those were religious schools. And I thought that was my idea of private school, was religious schools. And of course, I'm not religious, so I don't go to the school. Everybody else went to public schools. I didn't know until we got to San Francisco that 1/3 of our children go to private schools. Some are religious, but many of them are independent private schools that cost an arm and a leg, literally, like $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year. 1/3 of San Francisco school-age children go to private schools. So who are the ones in public schools? Very few of the families who can afford private schools, they go to public schools. And then there's the immigrants. There's the masses of people who don't have the resources to go to private schools, right? And actually, just in the last year, I started a nonprofit school that serves working and immigrant families' children. And I came face to face with the issues of serving the immigrant community. And in San Francisco, we have a lot of immigrant families' children. Between the Chinese-speaking and the English-speaking, we have a huge percentage. And I want to say upwards of 40% are immigrant families' children. And I have been working with these students in the past year and seeing firsthand their challenges and then the challenges of dealing with their family. These immigrant parents, they come from countries where I said my family came from China. In those countries, you don't have a say in your education. It's national, right? You just go, there are no PTAs, okay? So parents do not know that they can have a say in their children's education. So when they come here, their kids go to school, okay, they go to school. The parents don't know that you can give feedback, you can influence your children's education, so they don't engage. So therefore, they get ignored.
I see.
By the school district.
That makes all the sense in the world, because it's true in these other countries, many of them, there is no choice and
Nope.
there is no debate.
Nope.
This is a school.
No PTAs.
No PTAs. Well, let's just briefly talk about your private school experience, because this is remarkable that you, as an entrepreneur with financial understanding and experience, running startups or running companies here in Silicon Valley, now have actual school operational experience that nobody else has in the board. Are the voters of San Francisco going to recognize this opportunity?
I hope so. Why I founded this school was after my school board experience. I was on the school board for 9-10 months and saw how our public education system was run. And I was appalled, just appalled at what our students are not getting. And recognizing that there's all this politics played on the board level and then bureaucracy on the bureaucratic level, that the students are not being served. And since I was not elected or continued my own term, okay, and I was off the board, I can no longer serve at that level. What am I going to do? I wanted to continue to serve the students. I said, okay, the things that I want SFUSD to do, they either cannot do because of bureaucracy or they will not do because of ideology. Fine, I'll do it myself. That's why I started this nonprofit school that specifically serves working and immigrant families. I'm also getting firsthand experience on the challenges serving immigrants. Families, children, which we have a whole lot in SFUSD. And this is why I'm coming back to run for the school board again, because I can apply this experience in addition to my financial and professional experience previously to help run our school district.
So how's the campaign going for you? Do you have support from the voters, citizens, or is it you have to politic with various groups?
So this is my second time
Okay.
running a campaign. It feels very different for me. It feels much more comfortable in that I actually know what is happening. The first time I was running 2 years ago, because I was an appointee, I needed to run for my own term. Okay? That campaign was my first campaign, and I really didn't know what was happening. I was just told to go places, and I just went to those places. So many people introduce themselves. I had to really try hard to say who is who. Never mind their names. Like, what group are you with? And I took photos with everybody, and I really didn't know who was who and what are the politics behind each group and each person. This time, I know who is who, and I can choose to appear and shake hands or take pictures with the people that I want to align with and stay away from those that I don't.
Yeah. Well, I want to do two things. I want to thank you for coming in. The background is phenomenal. That's my personal opinion, of course. I'd like to give you an opportunity to tell our audience how they should follow up if they'd like to volunteer or make a donation to you, and then we'll talk about a statement at the end.
Okay, so my website is AnnForSFBOE.com. And my social media handles on X, on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok are just at Ann4SFBOE.
And let's go ahead and have you give if you would, speak to this camera and give your candidate statement of why you want to be elected to the Board of Education.
Well, I'm Ann Shu. I'm a school principal and teacher and parent of public school graduates just this year. I have the professional and personal experience to help SFUSD fix our fiscal crisis from day one. I've been on the school board. I served on the bond oversight committee before. I served on the PTSA of my son's high school. And I have firsthand experience running a nonprofit school that serves working and immigrant families of San Francisco. And I want to bring that experience to serve all students of SFUSD. And my priorities for our school district is first, fix our fiscal crisis with truth and transparency. Secondly, to attract and retain students and families with excellent academics, safe schools, and a customer service mentality. And thirdly, to attract and retain teachers. How? By having sensible policies made by the board that improves student behavior so that teachers can teach in the classroom instead of control student behavior. So I want to ask for everyone's, in San Francisco, the citizen support so that we can build back a true public education system that serves the public.
Well, Anne, it's been delightful meeting you. I'm impressed and I'm inspired by your personal story and your willingness to commit your time, hours, energy to reforming or addressing these issues in San Francisco at the School Board of Education. It's a remarkable commitment, a ton of work, pay is low. You're going to get criticized no matter what you do. So thank you for being willing to step forward with your experience, energy, and time to address this situation.
Thank you for this opportunity to share with your viewers myself and why I'm running, and hopefully people will support me so that I can give back to the public education system that has served me well in this country.
Thanks for joining us in this episode. If you gained insights from this conversation, share this show with your network and ask them to become a subscriber. You can view all shows at our website, gamechangers.tv, our YouTube channel, or our podcast under the channel name Game Changers Silicon Valley. We look forward to your continued interest in upcoming shows.